Most men are so afraid of facing grief. Triggers, all they are is a poke at the wound that was already there. As a child, we don't know the difference between emotional abuse and love. We just know it as this is what's normal because this is all I've received. As humans, we are attracted to what's normal and what's familiar to us because that's what's safe to our nervous system, even if it hurts. Hitting rock bottom is amazing.
We're here.
We are. Let's do it.
What a great way to start a podcast, because I think the most important thing to always do is just be here and be present, which is much more difficult than I think a lot of people can, or a lot more difficult than people think. And I was debating on which places to start the convo.
Yeah.
I think we could go based off of something that you recently shared, and it was actually something that you shared yesterday. And it was something you put on your Instagram story, which is the single greatest thing you can do in your life as a man is devote your life to discovering who you are at the deepest core level and then bringing that man to the world. It needs you. What made you share that?
Yeah. That was this morning, actually. I was sitting there this morning and I was just thinking, like, at the deepest core level, what is it that lights the soul of the masculine, like men? And it's them discovering who they are at their core and then how they bring that to the world. It's their mission, it's their purpose, it's how they show up in the world as a leader, as a father, partner, whatever. For the most part, his mission and his purpose should come over any of that and should be his absolute number one priority in life. And I know that in order for a man to be living in that expression, in his purpose, in his mission, takes for him to meet the depth of himself. And most people will uncover that throughout their business journey. Business is one of the most spiritual journeys that you'll ever go on. And through that journey, for the most part, is that devotion and commitment to a greater mission and purpose. And that naturally comes through as well when a man meets the depth of himself. And when I say like the world needs it, for the most part, the world is craving, especially the feminine is craving for men to step up to be the providers of emotional safety that's been lacking. And that's the greatest way that we can provide as men, is that emotional safety.
Do you think this is something that we innately know, this core, this purpose as a child, and then through growing up and maybe through traumatic events, we start to have layers that go on top of it? Or is this something that's discovered, as you're saying, like through business or through other components that we never had any touch with? Or is it something that we go back and we reconnect with?
I like to think of it this way. Imagine this soul, this energetic soul that's incarnated into this physical body. That soul, I believe, has come into this physical body to fulfill a soul purpose, a soul mission, and that's to be itself, right? And what happens is when that soul comes into the world, it's shaped, programmed, conditioned based on the environment that it's surrounded in, right? It's like our environment determines the pretty much who we become. Like it shapes who we are, right? And when that environment wasn't supportive enough, we disconnect from our true self, the soul that was placed on this earth to fulfill whatever it was here to fulfill. Now, here's the thing, we're supposed to be wounded, right? Because those wounds are the initiations into our hero's journey. And for the most part, our soul's purpose, I believe, is for us to heal and come back to our true self by doing whatever we need to do to heal and come back to who we were placed on this earth to be. And within that are the gifts and the lessons that we were here, that we were supposed to actually learn and receive along the way. And in that is where we find our purpose, because it's the most painful things that we experience in childhood, right? The void, the pit becomes the purpose. What we didn't have in childhood becomes the thing that we value most in life. So I believe that this soul was incarnated into this physical body, into this family system that it was placed in, to then be wounded in a way, for us to then do and be whatever we need to do to heal and overcome those core wounds, so we can awaken who it was that we were born to be. Yeah.
For folks who maybe don't think that they have been wounded, or that they don't have a wound, is there another, do you think that if every single person has a wound, or some folks might have like a degree of it, or how do you approach that one?
Yeah. I have a lot of men that come to me and they're like, I've had a perfect childhood, but my relationships, I feel deeply insecure or anxious, or I'm easily shut down in relationships. Or I had a perfect childhood, but I'm just all the time so stressed out in business and so overwhelmed, and I lack the emotional capacity to truly be a leader in my life, right? Now, all roads lead back to childhood. That was once a part of us. That younger version was once a part of us. And our life has been built upon the foundation of that younger part of us, that little child. And when it comes to trauma, until we resolve trauma, that energy stays stuck in the body, right? So you were once this little child, this little innocent being in the world that was then wounded or traumatized, that was then stuck and frozen in this level of consciousness that your life's then been built on the foundation of, right? So this is where most people have been. And then the ego comes in, and the ego's job, number one role, is to keep us safe. And for the most part, emotions, our emotional body, our emotional experience of what's happening in our body, when that was a painful place in childhood, we disconnect from it. And we'll do everything in our power to avoid feeling that original pain of what we experienced in childhood. So typically when someone comes to me and they're like, I had a great childhood, things were perfect, it's a massive red flag for me. Because for the most part, what the ego's done has gone, we're not going to remember that. Yeah, we're going to pretend that didn't happen, and we're going to push it down. And then this man gets into a relationship and he finds himself easily triggered or shut down or defensive or reactive because of what's called implicit memory. So implicit memory is the body's emotional memory, the stored memory that's in the body. Now with implicit memory, it has no timeline. Implicit memory, the body's emotional memory, doesn't know the difference between what happened when you're 5 years old and what happened today. So even though the ego has blocked you out of those memories, your body still remembers the emotional experience that you had as a little boy. And maybe it was the inconsistent love that happened over a period of time that left you with this hole in your soul, that left you with this sense of deep loneliness at the core of it, right? And then a man becomes an adult child, right? Because he's actually still operating from the consciousness of a boy and the energetic capacity and level of a boy. That's why most men lack the capacity to run a business and be in a relationship at the same time, is because their energetic capacity is that of a little boy, because they're still stuck and frozen in that the energy of that little boy, right? So that implicit memory will be triggered in relationship, right? But he believes that he had a perfect childhood, but the body remembers because it was triggered. And triggers, all they are is a poke at the wound that was already there, right? So that wound was already there and it was poked at. That's why it's a trigger. That's why there was an emotional response or reaction when it was brought up in the relationship, because there was a wound there. It's like, imagine like you have a cut on your hand, right? That wound is open, and that wound will stay open until it has the right environment to heal, right? What happens like when you get a cut or a graze or whatever, if you don't have the right supportive environment for your body to do what it naturally does, which is heal, it doesn't heal, it becomes infected. And these wounds will stay wounds until we create the environment to heal. So that implicit memory, based on what happened when you're a child, those unresolved wounds are still there, and they're triggered in relationship because a relationship is your first experience of this person reflecting back to you these unresolved wounds, right? The love is so meaningful and it means enough for it to be painful enough to poke at these wounds, right? So until we actually create the environment for our body to naturally do what it does, which is heal, those wounds will stay alive. So this is why until we heal the boy or heal that wounded inner child, right? Those wounds will, and here's the thing, because those wounds have had a whole lifetime of being open because they haven't been healed, imagine those wounds being deeply infected. And you've probably had like an infected cut, like you touch anywhere near the infection, it's like reaction. It's like a physical, like, holy shit, that hurts sort of thing. And that's what most people experience throughout their life. So it's, going back and resolving that unresolved trauma. So no one escaped childhood without a few cuts.
That's a fantastic breakdown. It made me think of a number of things. And another way that I've heard what you described in terms of getting hurt. You got your cup? Yeah, there it is. It is another way that I've heard described of a wound like this is when you treat the symptoms and not the problem, where my dad would always say is like if you got shot in the arm with an arrow and they see that it's bleeding, but they break off the arrow itself, but the arrowhead is still in the body and they stitch it up. But the bleeding is stopped. Yeah. But then the arm goes gangrene because you have a metal arrowhead within the arm. And then, like you were saying, anywhere around it, you touch it. And so the longer you go, I imagine, without actually going deep into, the longer you go without touching base with that child who never really expressed the emotion, the more your ego is going to put up barriers that says, no, because it feels so dangerous and so cautious. Yeah. Or it feels so dangerous and it's trying to be cautious with that realm. And there was something on that was great with a lot of folks maybe have resistance to accepting this, where the ego comes in, as you were saying, with like folks who say, no, I had a great childhood. I'm okay. But they have yet to do any of this work. And I'm reading a book right now called The Surrender Experiment. I don't know if you've heard of that one, or there's another one called Transurfing Reality as well. But they both have a similar premise of kind of just accepting and letting go of everything, and knowing, like you were first relating, is that your wounds are also your purpose. And kind of when you accept that and you allow it to come into your life is when the healing comes. It's like the circle, the arc of the hero's journey. You go in and you kind of let the ego really die, and then you wake up and you just say, okay, this is actually, my path is to be nice. My path is to help other men. And kind of on this same thing, I'd love to go back to your origin story, because I understand that you used to work as a carpenter before this position. And the jump from carpenter to now working with celebrities, top athletes, 7-figure entrepreneurs is significant and incredible. At what point in that job did you realize that this was your calling? And what was the transition like going from carpenter to the gentleman I'm sitting across from today? Yeah,
man, what a journey. First of all, just based on like what you just shared before, I love the analogy of like being shot by an arrow. And it's like, I imagine as a child, like, because here's the thing, we don't know the difference between emotional abuse and love. We just know it as this is what's normal because this is all I've received. So when we receive this, we're welcomed to this world and we receive the love that we're receiving, we don't know it, but it's kind of like we're being shot in the back with an arrow that comes through the back into your heart. What most people do in the personal development world, in the spiritual community and whatnot, it's like exactly that. They break off the arrow, right? The arrow's still in there, right? But it's good because, that it doesn't look like it's It's out.
not bleeding, you're good.
It's not bleeding,
Stitch it up, you're fine.
Yeah. And that's most mindset work, most personal development work, right? Pulling that arrow out and feeling the pain of that and allowing that to actually heal is what I call healing the original pain. I call it like the original pain of what it was that you experienced in childhood. And it's kind of like the analogy of like the Japanese, what is it? The Japanese, what do you call it?
Wabi-sabi, is that, or is it when something breaks and you...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it called?
It might be wabi-sabi, but it's there's a couple of those, like, I know what you're talking about. That's really great.
It's like the Japanese pottery, right?
Yes.
When they break it, right? Once it's broken, they mend it back together with gold. So now this thing that was broken is actually now more valuable because of the wisdom, right? The lessons, the embodiment, the journey, all of it that it's learned, right? Metaphorically, to place itself back together. And it's like, this is actually more valuable now. This is worth more. And who's to say it was supposed to be broken or not? Who knows? But all we know is that it's actually more valuable than what it was, right? And I believe that we all have gone through that in some degree. And that's exactly, coming back to your question, what I experienced when I was a carpenter, when I was in construction, right? I was in construction. So I was 21 years old. I built a successful carpentry business. At 21, I was managing multi-million-dollar architecturally designed homes. One of my highest weeks as a carpenter was $15,000, which was a lot at that time. Now with that, I was in that industry from the place of this little boy who was trying to and striving to create success. And it led me to this empty, dark place. And the reason why it led me to this empty, dark place is because that empty, dark place was already there. And I thought that this career was going to fulfill that empty, dark place. That was actually the void, right? That I had developed over the years because of the love I didn't receive that I needed as a child. So beneath me trying to build success in this industry was actually this little boy who was still craving this love and approval from his masculine figure and role model, that he was enough and he's good enough and he has what it takes to be a man. Now, the thing is when we don't get our core emotional needs met in childhood, we stop trying to get those needs met through our parents and we transfer trying to get those needs met through the world. So if I can create success and be perceived in the world as successful, then I will be enough. But beneath that, as a little boy, the original pain of the little boy who didn't feel enough for his masculine role model, right? And because he doesn't get that, he then turns it to the next most masculine thing, which is creating success. So that's what it was. It was built from this foundation, this broken foundation, this void, this emptiness, and this deep sense of loneliness. And it then led to a point where, I created that. And at 21 years old, I was lucky enough to ask this question of, what the fuck does this all mean? Like, I'm depressed. I am making more money than I ever thought I would ever make at 21 years old. And yet I'm broke because I'm spending it all to try and feel somewhat better, right? I went through a breakup at the time because I was trying to fill my soul with this love outside of me to give me some sort of sense of connection, right? So it was just dark and empty and so fucking lonely. And it led to this point where there's a period of time where it was, a lot of suicidal thoughts. It would be a lot easier to leave this world than it would be to stay in what I've created. I'm working 7 days a week, physically hard. I've pushed everyone away. And getting to this point, I remember, and sometimes it takes for us to remove ourselves from our current environment. It's like it takes for us to step out of the picture that we've created to actually then be able to actually see the picture. It's like, okay, this is the picture that I've created, right? We can see a bird's eye view of it. So getting out of my environment, getting overseas, right? Went on an overseas trip for 2 weeks. I remember sitting on a beach in Thailand and my heart just cracked open. It was just this joy, this happiness. And it was after doing a breath work, right? The breath has been one of the most powerful tools that have initiated me into a lot of, the growth that I've experienced. And it was after a powerful breathwork journey, sitting on a beach in a foreign country, being out of my environment, where my heart cracked open. And it was this decision, this full body decision that I will never not put this first. My happiness, my heart, my truth. I will never not put this first ever again. I will always lead as much as I possibly can from this place. Because I know that no matter what I do, if I'm living and leading from this place, I will be most happy, fulfilled, successful, financially abundant. And when I made that decision at 21, 22 years old, my entire life changed. I put all my tools away. They actually still sit in the spot that I put them away in all those years ago.
Your physical tools from
about $50,000 worth of equipment just sitting there. And I stepped away. I walked away from it, and I pursued what it was that my heart wanted, my heart always wanted, which was helping people. Now, this is coming back to the full expression of who I was as a little boy, which was I was so curious, and I just wanted to help people. I wanted to see people happy. I wanted to. I was so passionate about the things that I loved. And because of my environment, because of all I'd ever known, I was shaped and programmed and conditioned by society that you're not good enough to go to university, to go study this, to be a coach. Because if you want to be a coach, you have to go through this entire journey through university and then coach professional football teams or whatever to actually make something of it. So I was like, oh, well, I'm nowhere near smart enough to even get into college or university. So I'll just become a tradie because that's the next best thing. And I was told that you're only good with your hands. Don't use your brain. And yeah, that's when, I went after building a career in the building industry because, but I neglected what I really wanted, which was helping people, coaching. So listening to what my heart wanted after creating that space and that stillness to listen to it. Because that's the thing, like our body is always like we fucking know. We know what we need to do. We know the decisions we need to make. We know the direction we need to go. And for the most part, it just takes for us to get quiet enough in the analytical mind that's so fucking busy, so noisy, to get quiet enough to listen to the whispers of what your heart already knows. The way I like to think of it is, animals that just migrate to the other side of the world, right? They just know.
Intrinsically.
They just intrinsically know. There's this deep inner knowing from something that's just far greater than them that we know at this time of the year, we go to this side of the world because this is where the food's going to be, right? It's just this deep inner knowing. And coming back to that takes for us as men, especially because we spend so much time in our head. Women are so in tune, right? Women who are embodied in their feminine expression are so in tune with their intuition and their felt sense and their knowing, right? But as men, right, we spend so much time up here in the ego, in the conscious mind, thinking, planning, making decisions, leading, worrying about business, the next thing to do, that it takes for us to silence that noise to actually listen to the whispers of what our body's trying to speak to us. And it was once I did that, my heart opened. It was like, yes, finally, you're listening to me. And it was a full embodied decision to go all in on that. And my life changed forever.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And I also love the animal stories of them knowing exactly where to go. I think there's so many different species of sea turtles that will lay eggs and then their offspring will come back, not just to that same exact beach where they were born, but the same exact location where their parent, their mother laid that egg. So it's that deeply connected and we all have it. Our brains our bodies are so intelligent, but we work so hard to put layers on it. No, there's so many things that you shared that I went to grab the pen to write some down because you keep having so many cool things. And one of them I thought was so interesting was in the beginning you were talking about how the deep and dark place as a child existed. And when you started off on the career and construction, you went back there because it always existed, but you just went there in like a roundabout way with your pockets full of money and then all of the material goods around you, and then you showed up and kind of got there and we're like, well, fuck, what is the point?
Mm-hmm.
How common of a story is that for the men that you work with?
Yeah. Think about that being the hero's journey. Eventually, I made my way back. So the hero's journey is, think of it's like a circular journey, right? We have the calling to adventure, right? Then at the pit, we receive the lesson, and then we come back to the original world. Yeah. And that calling, so we will receive thousands of invitations throughout our life to face the unresolved wounds of what we experienced in childhood. And unfortunately, it takes for it to be painful enough for us to lean in and actually face those core wounds. Why? Because the ego is so good at avoiding pain and moving towards pleasure. And especially for men, the sad truth is that the most painful thing that they experience is their heart being broken and shattered in a relationship. The fear of their partner maybe leaving them, right? Them going through a separation, or they're about to go through one. Now, it's the most painful thing that a man will go through, and also the most beautiful thing as well, because they have that experience where their heart is cracked open to something that's greater than them by them asking a question of like, what the fuck do I do? I'm just, whatever I got to do, I'm surrendering to that, right? I was working with a client today, actually. And he said, if I wasn't going through this heartbreak right now of being in a marriage of 20 years and my partner potentially leaving and riding on the decision if she's going to stay or not, I wouldn't have just done that breathwork journey with you that just cracked me open and changed my entire fucking life. And in that journey, he released and processed trauma and emotion and energy that's been stuck in his body his entire life. And he just felt it and moved it and processed it. And he's like, I feel 100 kilos lighter than what I did before, right? Now, unfortunately, it took for him to get hit by the truck, right? It took for him to have this, it's like the universe will whisper at us until it screams at us, right? So he's had this universe, the universe is screaming at him. And the way that it's doing it is by having this relationship breakdown to crack him open for him to come back to his true nature. And his true nature is the love, right? That he is at his core. But because he didn't have that love and connection with himself, because he didn't have this supportive environment to create that with himself, he's built this entire life based on the foundation of that. And for the most part, until we grieve our unmet needs from childhood and the life that we've created for ourselves because of who we felt that we needed to be in order to survive, right? Until we grieve that, only then we can actually let it go. So that journey I took him through was him actually grieving and processing everything that's been formed and created, this false self, this false reality based on the broken foundation. And that broken foundation comes from not having the supportive environment to develop a strong connection to ourselves as children. And this is what I call the mother wound. It's like we're welcomed into this world. We come out of the physical womb into the energetic womb. And the energetic womb is the family system that we're welcomed into. And when there's something that's missing within that family system, right, we become wounded in that family system. We take on a role that's not our responsibility, right? And this is how, we develop deep mother wounds. And mother wounds is not just your actual mother. It's the energetic archetype of the motherly energy of nurturing, of care, of quality touch, of presence, of a safe regulated nervous system, a safe home, a safe space. When we don't have that, we don't have the safety to explore our own internal experience. We become disconnected from that. So What was your question again? Just to come back to the.
It was if we can keep going on this. Actually, I think the original question was just if it's a common thing that men get material success and then end up being like this. But I was going to also touch on what you just said, because it's so fascinating understanding the different wounds as they appear. And I know you've talked about motherly and fatherly wounds, and they're two different things, and now understanding that it doesn't necessarily have to come up from the mother or from the father. But I'm thinking, if I were someone listening to this, and then also as I was listening to your other work, I'd be like, oh shit, like how could I identify those wounds as they appear in my own life? And so curious, what would be like a short list of both a mother-son wound and then a father-son wound for folks to identify potentially?
Yeah, great. Yeah, this is great. So I look at the father wound as the archetypal energy of the father, which is the masculine. And if you think of the masculine energy, it's about the doing, it's about executing, the masculine energy is penetrating energy. Like if you look at the sexual organs of a male and female, like it's penetrating, and a woman's receptive energy, right? So the masculine is penetrative energy. It's how you, it's based on like performance. It's based on the doing. It's based on the moving towards, right? So when we, and there's many ways that we actually develop this wound of shame, okay? But basically when we don't have a healthy masculine role model, and I want to speak to men specifically here because there's a very big difference. When men don't have that healthy masculine role model to take him on the journey and show him what it means to be a man, where he's stripped away from his mother, right? And he goes and he learns what it means to be a man. He doesn't receive that strength in his developmental stages of, I have what it takes to be a man. So for hundreds and thousands of years, for as long as it's been tracked, is that there's been a rite of passage from boy to man. And in that rite of passage from boy to man is the strength that he develops, that I have what it takes to be a man. I can overcome challenges. I can stand on my own 2 feet, right? And I am able to provide. And when he doesn't have that, because he didn't have that safe space in childhood reflected back to him, especially through his masculine role model or figure, or he didn't have a healthy role model or figure from the masculine energy, right? He doesn't gain that strength. And he forever is walking through the world as a little boy, seeking to feel that he has what it takes to be a man. So he's creating success from this place of this little boy who's striving and seeking and yearning for the validation that he has what it takes to be a man. But beneath that is the little boy still craving that from his the fatherly energy that he didn't receive. Okay? And within that is deep shame. Is deep shame that who I am at my core is inherently defected. There's something inherently wrong with me, right? Because I don't feel like I have what it takes to be a man. So I must prove myself. This is where the not good enough wound comes from. Yeah, so this is where a man will get into business and he'll create tremendous success from the place and from the energy, a low vibrational frequency of fear that I'm not good enough, so I must perform. So he drives himself to the absolute extent and destroys himself in the process to prove that he's good enough. Then he achieves it. And when he achieves it, it's empty because the thing that he thought would give him that sense of validation wasn't the thing, right? When we don't get those core needs met in childhood, like I said, we transfer those core needs to the world. So that thing that he thought would give him the validation wasn't the thing. It was what he didn't receive in childhood. And he has to grieve that and move through that pain to truly discharge that fear-based energy that he's being driven from. A lot of men actually fear healing that because they think that if I heal that, then my drive's going to disappear.
That was going to be one of my questions is what happens when you heal this? Does your ambition and your drive go away?
Yeah. Here's the thing. That'll get you to a certain point. that drive to prove yourself will get you to a certain point, but it won't get you to where you want to go. Because fear is a very low vibrational frequency. Love, gratitude, acceptance is a way higher vibrational frequency. You only attract the frequency to which you're operating on, right? So you get to actually gain the strengths, the lessons, the embodiment, the skills, the knowledge, everything that you've acquired to become this man. And you get to let go of all of the fear, right? And now be driven from a deeper place of meaning and inspiration that's going to pull you way further. So it's like, instead of forcing, it's pull. That's the kind of energy. And that's going to get you to where you want. And also, you're doing it from a far deeper place of joy and fulfillment, right? Because you can actually receive the moment. When you're operating, when you're unconsciously stuck in the past, where you don't even know about it, but you're building this business and striving unconsciously, seeking for something in the future to fulfill something that happened in the past, right? It'll never, ever, ever be enough. But when you've resolved the past, right? When you move through it in the future, you can actually receive the gifts in the moment. You can receive the joy, the abundance. You can receive the subtlety that you wouldn't have been able to receive because you were so fucking trapped in the past. So that's the beautiful part. So it's like, for men who feel like, oh yeah, I don't want to heal because then I'm going to lose that fire in my fucking belly to prove myself. Yeah, you're completely wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, because you move with a completely different energy. And I'm asking, kind of knowing the answer as well, because I'd done some similar healing type work as well, where I was afraid that I would lose the same really, really hardworking, ambitious drive, but it's the complete opposite. You just move from a place of total love. And it's so fascinating hearing this like dynamic, because it's so universal. Like you two of the conversations I had two conversations ago was with a guy named Tristan Yoder, who is a approach coach, is what you would call it, and the majority of his clients. I saw
that episode. Yeah.
Oh, okay, amazing. Yeah. So the majority of those conversations, the majority of his clients are these really high level entrepreneurs, and the thing is people think that once you get to that level of material success or external success based off of status, whatever it is, that the girlfriend or the wife will come, but it never happens. And if it does, it's usually not the person whom you want to be dating or be with. It's not until you get to that vibrational frequency, as you call it, that you attract the woman that you truly want to be with.
Yeah. And with that as well is most high achieving men as well, who are operating from the wounded inner child. Beneath all of the need to drive, to succeed, to prove himself in the world is this deep sense of loneliness.
Yeah.
Because when we're disconnected in childhood, that leaves this open void.
Yeah.
And within that void is this empty space. And in that empty space is the deep loneliness of, I need something outside of me in order to fulfill this hole within my soul, what I call it. So what happens is a man will either get into a relationship to try and fulfill that void of emptiness that he feels based on the lonely childhood that he had, and the relationship still won't feel enough. So he will become insecure. He will keep wanting more, needing more from her. This is where the man expects to be loved and supported, to have his needs met, but doesn't have the capacity to actually meet the basic needs of creating emotional safety for a woman. Yeah. So he'll do something to fuck it up or sabotage it. And actually what will also happen as well is if he gets out of that relationship, or if he's not even in a relationship, he actually becomes closed off from opening his heart to receive love and to open his heart to connection. And the reason he does that is because connection equals a painful place. It reminds him of the love that he didn't receive as a little boy. So he isolates. And he just works on his business, and his business becomes his greatest distraction. So he sits in his fucking office and just isolates and just works and just works and works. And maybe consciously he thinks that, yeah, one day when I create a level of success, yeah, then I can choose any woman. But what's actually happening is his heart's fucking closed because he's avoiding the deep sense of loneliness that's actually beneath the surface.
It's so fascinating. And you
Yep.
can, in that state, you can have perpetual validation because the world will see the things that you are collecting on a material basis and say you are successful, but at the same time you aren't attracting the person that you want to be with. And even if you do attract the person that you do want to be with, emotionally, as you said, you're not at the capacity to keep them. So that might turn into some form of infidelity, might turn into them not being able to actually be with you because you're insufferable in some cases. And so the work is always necessary. And when I'm letting out a little chuckle as you're saying these things, it's me kind of being like, oh, it's so fucking true. It's like, oh, I'm like laughing, like one self-recognition is like, oh, I've been there. And then also seeing other people I know who have done it. Do you think that all men in some form need to hit rock bottom in order to grow and find the success that we're talking about?
And the success that we're talking about is open heart, is abundance, is beautifully, deeply connected, intimate relationships, is all of it. Yeah. I believe we can change from a place of pain and suffering and desperation or inspiration. And I also believe that a man needs to go on his hero journey, and he at some point he has to hit his rock bottom. Whatever that might look, that might look completely different for each person. But at some point, and hitting rock bottom is fucking amazing. Like it's a celebration. Because that tells me that you're in the pit of your hero's journey. And in the pit of your hero's journey, that's where the pit reveals the purpose. You're in the pit to receive a gift, a lesson, an embodiment, a learning. And within that, you get to then bring that man to the world. And like I said, I believe that we're gifted our lessons. We're gifted our pits, our rock bottoms. And for my journey, my experience of me hitting rock bottom, those were mine to go through. Those were mine to receive, to experience. And the full ownership of that and the claiming of the embodiment, the knowledge, the wisdom, the skill sets is what it was that I was supposed to be initiated through to then bring to the world. The pit reveals the purpose. And when I went through the darkest night of my ego, because the soul doesn't go through a dark night, the soul just is. The ego breaks, right? When my heart cracked open, right? Because that love, that powerful man is there. But based on the pain of the past, we've caked protection. We've layered armor to protect our heart. When that heart cracks open and that armor has no other option but to break, to crack, to fall off, to remove itself, this powerful man comes through. And sometimes, for the most part, in the rock bottom is when we're cracked open. So I think it's the most beautiful, powerful thing that you can truly, fully lean into is when you hit rock bottom. The issue is when you hit the same rock bottom over and over and over, it's a pattern. You're not learning the lesson that you were supposed to receive. And that's the hero's journey. In the hero's journey, you have the calling to adventure. You then, if you accept that calling to adventure, and the calling to adventure could be a subtle invitation from your partner, and it could be her complaining to you. And what she's actually asking for is safety. And the safety that she's asking for you, like from you as a man, requires you to hold a depth of embodiment that can create that safety. That can be an invitation. And in order to be that man that she's craving to feel safe with in relationship, might take for you to heal some of your deepest pain and shadows from childhood. So an invitation can come in the most subtle way possible. And typically it's through the feminine. It's through the expression of the feminine. She'll just, invitations galore. And if he's ready and willing to receive them, he'll lean in. Once he accepts the invitation on the hero's journey, he's then met with a mentor. That could come in the form of this podcast, like an actual, like working with a mentor, going through a course, a program, reading a book, right? Something to give him the confidence and the courage to transition from the world that he's known into the world he doesn't know, the unknown world, his subconscious world, the 95% of him. And within there is the rock bottom, is the depths of his pain that he's yet to face and experience. The cave that we fear entering most holds the treasure that we seek, right? And what most men do is they knock on the door to the cave, they open the door and they see the tunnel and they go, fuck that. They close the door. What happens is they then go back up to the top to the ordinary world until the invitation comes around again. Then they come back down, knock on the door of the cave, but they're not ready to step in yet. Yeah. A man must be willing to die 1,000 deaths. He must be willing to step through that fucking cave, walk down that tunnel and meet the depth of himself. And once he does that, he'll then learn the lesson and the gifts he was supposed to receive. Then he can come back to the known world with this new embodiment, with this lesson, with this gift. It's like your deepest wounds become your greatest gift as a man in the world. And that comes back to the quote that I shared this morning on my story that I wrote. The only reason and the only way that I know all of this and that I teach all of this, people respond and message me all the time. They're like, you're so young. How do you know this stuff? What books have you read? What programs who have you learned from? And it's because I had the courage to actually walk through that cave, walk through the fire. Yeah. And through the fire has forged the weapon or the identity or the skill set or the embodiment that I was supposed to walk through to then be able to bring this to the world. So hitting rock bottom is a celebration because in that is your greatest gifts. And I believe the greatest gift that a man can give to the world is him healing that little boy within him and awakening the powerful man that he was actually placed on this earth to be. Yeah. There's such a journey in all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. But the point is the mountain that you climb. The point is the sea that you cross. The point is that you do hit rock bottom. That is the story that is what becomes the story. And so to surrender to it, like you were saying, when you go to the door, you knock on it and it's the dark tunnel, you surrender to it with full confidence that this is the right path and that you're going to be okay and you'll be fine with yourself, and you allow the 1,000 deaths to happen. And I think what's also so important, and what I've really, really, really come to realize since I've been in Bali last May is actually having a brotherhood of other men around you. And it's so lacking. Or at least in the United States, you're from Australia. It's very, very lacking, especially as you start to age. Kind of your friend group starts to dissolve. You go to other places in the world and you start to lack that. You don't have the friends. But when you do have that brotherhood of people around you, then you are at that cave. You're down there. You look to your other friends around you and you say, dude, I'm in it right now. And then I heard you on the podcast that you had with the gentleman we were just talking to, DNMs. I can't remember the guy's name, but
Dean. Yeah.
Dean. Yeah. Thank you. I remember you saying, and that was like, when people tell you tell you that they're in the pit, your response is hell yeah. Like you're so excited for them because it is the start of the next thing, and they can rely on you.
I think it's so beautiful, men being in the pit. Yeah. And here's the thing, you can be in the pit from a place of choice or from a place of desperation. I've no other option right now.
Fuck it, I'm in.
And here's the thing, I've done both, and I would rather choose to be in the pit than be in the pit from a partner walking out on you because you didn't choose to be in the fucking pit. Yeah. And like the reason why I understand this so fucking deeply is because I was the unsafe man. I was the man who knocked on the door and ran away, wasn't willing to walk through that door and walk through the fire and go through that fucking initiation because I didn't choose that, right? The old patterns and behaviors, the voids that I was using to distract myself from going into that cave, like a relationship, then became that relationship leaving me and me having no fucking choice but to have to go through that door, right? So I've been that before. And yeah, it can be from a place of, from a choice or desperation. Yeah.
Was the final straw on the camel's back that led you to go through that door? Was it the relationship, or what was tell me about that moment. What led you to get through that?
Yeah. So I'd been in the personal development space for quite some time. At that point, it had been about 7 years, like all in. Like I told you, I left carpentry. I went all in on not only just coaching, but any personal development event I was at. Any program, I was in it. I was working with every coach, mentor I could possibly work with, right? And so with that, I had a lot of like intellectual knowledge and understanding of this work, of attachment theory, of somatics, of trauma, of breath work, and all of this. I was very intellectual with it, but I'd intellectualized my own healing. I hadn't walked through the fire myself. Now, I was in this relationship where this was the first relationship that I was like, this is the mountain that I'm committed to dying on. This woman is like, I'm planting the flag in the mountain, and it's for the first time. I want to have children. Like I can see myself marrying you. It was this like full, like bodied commitment to this woman. And in that, what was familiar to me based on childhood, what I thought was love in childhood was emotional unavailability, because my parents were disconnected from themselves emotionally.
Same, brother.
Rightfully so, based on what they experienced in childhood, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what was normal and familiar to me. And as humans, we are attracted to what's normal and what's familiar to us, because that's what's safe to our nervous system, even if it hurts. So I got into this relationship with this person who kept me at arm's length. Yet I was like, I'm so committed to you. This is the mountain I'm willing to die on. And I was almost willing to die on that. I lost myself in the process. Yeah, to someone who couldn't actually meet me in relationship. I was also emotionally unavailable, right? Because I hadn't actually healed this past trauma. Now, with that led to our relationship breaking down and her leaving, right? And like I said, what was normal, what I experienced as love was actually emotional abuse, which was that emotional unavailability. So I attracted this woman because that's what was normal to me, that was emotionally unavailable. And then I kept pushing and striving and pushing and striving to get the love that I thought this relationship would give me, right? So there was a little boy in the relationship. I was operating from the consciousness of this little 6-year-old boy who was striving for this sense of emptiness or loneliness, which was the disconnect that he could feel between his parents, right? So there was no way I was getting that from the relationship. That's why the love she did give me wasn't enough. I couldn't receive the love that she did give me, right? And the love that she did give me was not as much as it was nowhere near the amount of love that I actually wanted to be met with in relationship, right? Based on her trauma that was familiar, that I found familiar in my nervous system, right? So this woman that I was so committed to, we were actually living here in Bali, and we had a villa together. We're here. Our relationship was super rocky. We're working with coaches and therapists and whatnot to work through it. One day I get home from the gym, she's packing her stuff, she's crying, and she just leaves. Within a period of 30 minutes, gone. I'm in a foreign country on my own. No one around. Some of my best friends were out of touch at the moment. At that time, they were out on a retreat, right? Doing men's work and doing their thing. And I was just met with myself. And I had no choice but to walk through that cave, walk through that fire. And I chose it when I was in it. I was like, I'm going to fully lean into this. And that cracked me open completely to me actually no longer intellectualizing my healing and actually feeling and processing the wounds and the trauma of the little boy and healing the little boy who is still seeking for a relationship to tell him that is enough. Still seeking for a relationship to fulfill this empty, lonely void that he was carrying with him. And ever since that, my whole life has been completely different because I chose to walk through that fire. Yeah. So it was a relationship that And that's why I say, like, I celebrate, because I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be able to help men and take men to the depth that I'm able to take them through today if I hadn't been there myself. So yeah, relationships have been my deepest teacher. Not specifically relationships, grief has been my deepest teacher. Navigating and facing grief, the grief that kept this protection around my heart, that kept me from fully, truly experiencing life and receiving life. So yeah, it was a relationship.
Do you still carry any pain from that relationship?
I've processed a lot. I'll never say that I've fully grieved something. I'll never say that. I don't think anyone ever should, because we never know how and when grief will come. There's waves, there's layers to it, right? And to judge that I've healed something and it's good, is to then neglect potentially the parts that might come up. I see a lot of people do that in their healing journey. It's like, oh, I've already healed that. Have you? Like, maybe there's residue that's still seeking to be felt. Man, I might feel a bit of grief in 5 years' time, and it could be from a previous relationship. I don't know. So I'll never say that, I've healed completely something. I've learned how to coexist with my emotional experience and process whatever's seeking to be felt in the moment. And for the most part, I feel pretty good right now.
And then during these times, because I've had heartbreaks as well, similar to a dynamic of you of the women who I used to attract. And actually, I'll say this: the women who I still attract, despite having processed these emotional challenges, are still folks or women who are emotionally unavailable. So I want to put this question back to you, but from what I've experienced is that it kind of doesn't ever go away. It's just more so is that I'll bring awareness to it and just say, okay, I'm just bringing back this familiarity, and it feels good because it's this comfort that I have, but the comfort actually isn't the real relationship that I'm after. What I put down on pen and paper is that I want someone who's loving, available, 100% or as communicative as I am with them. So how's your experience with that? And do you think it's something that's like you heal it and it's gone, or is it something that will continuously repeat, but we just have to bring awareness to it?
Yeah, I would love to touch on that. And I would also love to touch on the mother wound as well, because I know that we spoke about the father wound, but I'd love to talk about the mother wound, because maybe someone's sitting there like, what? Tell me. So, my felt sense is that in a world that's so disconnected, based on social media, based on like technology, based on like the direction that we're heading, it's like we're actually moving even further away from our roots, which is nature. So in a world of disconnected people, connected people who are truly emotionally available and have met the depths of themselves, for me personally, my personal experience is that's rare. It's so fucking rare. And it's also really beautiful at the same time as well, because this is where you get to stand out amongst the disconnect in the world. And this is the difference, right? It's like one of my mentors took me through this process where he was like, imagine yourself walking through a neighborhood and every house just has weeds growing, like bush and weeds, and it's just overgrown, and it's just, it's dead, right? It's just dead
brush, dead grass, everything.
Dead grass, right? They don't take care of it, right?
Dust at all.
And then you come across this one home where there's a bush of bright red roses that are well maintained, and this rose is just so open, so receptive, and it's doing nothing but just being its full self. In a world of disconnection, in a world of dead
vegetation,
you get to be the rose that's so deeply connected to itself, and just by being so connected to yourself, you get to be the difference in the world. I truly believe that the people who are going to stand out most in the world are those who are most connected to themselves, like those who are most in their body in a world that's coming. Like, I feel it's going to get to the point where you'll be walking down the street and someone will be like, whoa, like what was that? Right? Because people will be so foreign to be around a man who's so deeply connected to himself, who's connected to nature, who has healed the little boy within him, who's operating in his powerful man. Right. So first of all, that's the first thing. So what you shared there, like, you know, connecting with the right partner, like, yeah, I feel it's rare. Fine. It sounds like you're seeking someone with depth. And in a world of disconnected people, that depth is rare. Now,
it's also intimidating, I think. And I'd say just on like when those houses then reflect and see on that house, they then like, oh, I again, on pen and paper, I would love to connect to the man or woman like that, but it would also mean that in order to do so, you have to confront your own demons. So actually being able to get in a relationship with that person puts a lot of people away because they're afraid of going to those depths alongside you, because like you were saying, the relationship is just a mirror of you.
Man, great point. And I feel that men actually prevent themselves from pursuing healthy, embodied, feminine women who are in their power because it's intimidating because of the man he would have to be and become in order to actually hold space for that.
Wow.
Yeah. So amazing point.
Yeah. And 100% in terms of,
and vice versa as well.
But
it goes both ways.
It's so freaking fascinating that the exact thing that we need in life is what we're most afraid of. Which is crazy.
It's the cave.
It's the cave, man.
It's the cave.
It's a scary, dark place, but that's the place that you need to go into.
Yeah, and you can choose, okay, if I'm to be with a woman like that, what's the depth of embodiment that I need to meet myself in to be able to actually be in a relationship and hold space for that? Cool. Now you get to choose to go through that cave. You get to choose to go through that initiation and become the fucking man that has this safety within his own nervous system, this stability, this security within his own nervous system to actually hold space for that fully embodied feminine woman. A woman who's fully expressed in her feminine, like her true feminine, not the wounded aspects, like she's actually met the depth of herself, will be the most intimidating thing for a man. Yeah. And vice versa as well. I've experienced the opposite, where I've connected with women who didn't have the emotional availability to fully commit because they're actually scared of that depth. They're actually scared they don't have the, because they've never experienced safe, healthy masculine. This is so foreign to them. So they might feel emotionally unavailable, but maybe it's actually your depth that it's like, whoa, like I'm actually not ready to connect with someone at that depth because that's fucking scary. And I do know, to answer your question or what you shared, in the hero's journey, the same thing that you used to attract will continue to show up. And the reason why it continues to show up is because it's making sure that you receive the gifts and the lessons that you were supposed to receive in the pit.
That's as reminders.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's actually the coming outside of the pit. It's actually the next initiation. So when you come out of that pit, right, you're then faced with the original challenges that you faced to make sure that you've actually acquired the knowledge, the skill set, the embodiment, the identity of what it was that you decided that you're going to step into in the pit. Yeah. So what that might look like is, yes, like connecting with women who are emotionally unavailable, and it's now seeing that and now going, hey, I now know what I'm inherently worthy of receiving in a relationship, and that's to be met in a relationship with someone who's willing to meet me at the depth to which I want to go with someone. And if someone is unavailable to meet you in that depth, that's okay. Right? I'm not currently in a relationship right now because of this exact thing. I wish to choose someone who can fully choose me to meet me in that depth. And there's been people that I've also connected with where it's like, hey, right now, like you're an amazing person and I'm not going to pursue this because I don't feel that you have the capacity to actually meet me to the depth to which I want to go. Yeah. So it's being so super intentional with what it is that you truly know is important to you. Because here's the thing. If you haven't met the depth of yourself, you don't know what you need in a relationship. If you haven't cultivated or experienced what safety feels like in your own nervous system, how are you supposed to know what it is that you need to feel safe in a relationship? You have no idea because you have no reference point, right? So that's the beautiful part about that is like you have the frame to walk away from things that don't actually serve you or to which someone can't actually meet you in. Really cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And I think it's going back as well. The hero's journey is in the book I was referencing earlier, the surrender experiment is really just surrendering to life, the universe, God, however it is that you want to label it, but understanding that everything is happening for you. Everything in this world is happening for you. And as soon as you release that point of resistance, you allow it to come in, and then you see what happens, and then you respond. Will you stay grounded? That's when you start to live attuned in your life. And there's a quote that I love that I'll butcher, but I'll still try and share it with you. But it's like you should not grow afraid if a dark cloud of challenge or misery comes over you. You should know that life is acting in its thousands of mysterious ways, and that whatever is on the other side of this cloud is exactly what was meant for you. And so just surrendering, allowing, and knowing that, okay, hey, if this woman, if this man, if this business, whatever that is something that you've had so much of an attachment to, and you really, really, really don't want to lose it, just let go of that attachment. Understand that if it leaves, it leaves, and that you are still okay in the grounded center that you are. And then that's where life happens.
Yeah. And I love that. And we have an ego that's based on survival.
Yeah.
And that ego becomes wounded based on our developmental needs that are incomplete. And this is where people go wrong in the spiritual world, is where they just go, yeah, like I'll just surrender to it all. But they're actually spiritually bypassing healing the younger part of them that's actually seeking their attention, seeking their love. And for the most part, that dark cloud that's coming over is probably the big fucking invitation that's probably got written invitation on it like this.
This is it. Yeah. Get ready.
That's
something I've been working to understand more and more of, when to surrender, when to take action, like in terms of like, okay, what does it look like to release these traumatic moments, or release the emotion that was stored from the young child that's within your body, and then when is it a point of surrendering and just saying, hey, I'm just going to see what happens here and not necessarily act? How can we make a distinction between the two of those?
Surrendering. So are you asking about surrendering to the process of healing, or surrendering like as it comes up?
I think it more generally as it comes up. Yeah, it's like anything comes up. And then at what point do we understand when to, like, action, I guess, could be in either form. Like surrendering is an action in itself, but then action could be more like, okay, I'm stepping forward, and then surrender might be, I'm going to wait here just to see what passes. Yeah. And say, I think for men, oftentimes, or at least myself, is that it's like, okay, at what point should I just observe what this person whom I'm interested is doing, or take action and say either, hey, I really love you, I want to be with you, or hey, I think we should actually end this. Like, how do we make a distinction between those two? I don't know if that's does that make sense? The question,
it's definitely a loaded question, and there's also so my answer to you having the discernment between, is this relationship or is this thing healthy for me? Is this my truth? Like, is this love? Is this it? Like, is this the one? Right? Do I lean in? Do I fully commit? Do I make that decision to go all in and commit myself to this? Or is this not right? It takes for us to get quiet enough to listen to what our gut, our heart knows. So I take people through a process with listening to the head, the heart, and the gut. So you already know, right? But the thing is, your deeper truth, for the most part, goes against everything that your ego wants for you, which is to keep you safe and to go towards what's familiar and comfortable, which is like, the love and attention from this partner, from this woman. But that deeper truth is like, it's not right. This is not it. And to honor that is to, like, it takes so much fucking courage to live a life of truth, to be honoring your truth as a man, and to be able to listen to that and really own that and live and lead from your deepest truth. Because, like I said, it goes against everything the ego wants. And what that takes is, let's say in that situation, it's like, I'm not sure if this is the right relationship or this is the wrong relationship. And your deeper truth, let's say it goes, it's like, you just know this is not it. This is not right. It takes for you to be able to face the grief of that. But for the most part, most men are so afraid of facing grief. But as I shared before, and why I highlighted, grief has been my deepest teacher. Because even like, let's say you going on a date or meeting a woman and it's like, oh, you're amazing. And I just know it's not right. If you are afraid of feeling and facing your grief, even though it's not a full fuck yes, even though that little part of you is like, this is not it, it's not right, you're not going to listen to that. Because it's more important for you to go towards what feels right compared to what is right, which is the deeper truth, your deeper fucking knowing. And here's the thing, it takes time to feel into that truth. If I'm stuck on a decision of, is it this or is it that? Is it this or is it that? I know with enough time and enough stillness, spending time with the right people, being in nature, taking myself out of the environment, getting a different perspective, I'll come to that truth. It takes time though. And I believe like our deeper truth will reveal itself through time. Whether that's you committing to that relationship that you know just isn't right for you, that truth will come through 5 years down the track. When you get out of that relationship and you're like, I knew that there was something in the beginning that was just like that. I just knew it wasn't the right relationship, but I didn't listen to it. Yeah.
But you knew.
So to listen to your truth, that deep inner knowing, that fucking voice that we know is there, that we avoid listening to, takes so much courage, because it takes for you to grieve the potential of that thing. Yeah. So there's that. Coming back to your question, there's also, imagine this for a moment. The younger part of us that still is alive within us today, our inner child, the little boy within us, was once who we are, who we were, right? What most people have done, because their childhood was a painful place or a lonely place, is that little boy or that little child within them, they've locked in the basement and they've kept them there. And what's happening is this disregarding of that part of you, that younger part of you that's screaming for your love and attention, where you're trying to get that from out here. This little boy or this little girl is in the basement screaming for your love and attention, your acceptance, your validation, to be welcomed. And what I see is people bypassing and just surrendering that. Oh, whatever's coming up right now, I'll just surrender to it. They're not acknowledging this younger part of them that's screaming for their attention, though, that's seeking their love and to be welcomed. Now, to integrate the inner child, to integrate the younger part of us, is if you imagine walking downstairs, turning the lights on, and imagine down there it's a cold, dark, dingy place. It's like this spider webs everywhere. No one's been down there for fucking years. And that little child is locked in there. But that little child's locked in there with the fucking control panel to your life. Pressing all of the buttons, screaming for attention, screaming to be seen, screaming to be validated, screaming to be loved, right? But you're upstairs trying to create this life, right? To heal the inner child and to integrate that younger part of us is to go downstairs, turn on the lights, to open the cage that your little boy has been in most of his life, to sit down with him, to breathe with him, to create safety, to hold him, to let him know, I've got you now. I'm here. You're safe. I love you. I'll never leave you ever again. I've truly got you. To reclaim that younger part of you, for that younger part of you to feel safe enough to then come up the stairs with you up into the home, which is your heart, to know that that younger part of you is welcomed, is loved, is accepted, is validated, is seen, is to love and accept all parts of you. That's what healing is. Healing means wholeness. If you go look up the word healing, it means wholeness. If you go look up the word, it means health, it means wholeness. If you go look up the word integrity, it means wholeness. So the most integral thing you can do as a man is to heal the parts of you that you've denied, suppressed, or repressed. The younger parts of you that your life's been built upon the fucking foundation of. The home that you're up in has been built on the foundation of that little child who is so scared and feels alone. So to welcome that younger part of you back up into the home is to bring him back into your heart. Now, here's the thing. When you, and maybe listening to this podcast, you can imagine yourself actually going in there to your little child, your inner child. And when you sit down with them, you might notice how they might feel. They might feel a bit distant from you. They might feel a little bit like, I can't trust you. Or they might feel like, oh my, like, thank you. You're finally here. And they might just cry. Notice that you're not physically going back in time and connecting with a little child. That is a part of you today. So the more that little child within you feels safe, feels held, feels seen, feels accepted, feels validated, there's no separation. That's the deepest relationship you can form with yourself. To feel so deeply safe and connected within yourself is for that little boy to feel so deeply safe and connected to you. There's no separation. That's the deepest form of safety that you can experience, is to integrate that younger part of you that you've suppressed or repressed. Yeah. So that will come up absolutely as small triggers and whatnot. So yeah, two-part answer to your question.
That was fantastic. Yeah. And from that healing, from that reconnection comes all of the positive things, which is the relationship that you want, the happiness that you want, the safety that you have and that you can create with other people. And then I think also there's a gentleman who I'll be interviewing in California soon, and he talks about maintaining a really important sense of wonder. And wonder is just something that children always have. And you hang out with a kid for 5 minutes, and the wonder that they bring into this world on just the most simple things that they see and they observe make you stop in your tracks, and they'll just ask, why is it that we only drive on the left side of the road here, or something like that. It's like, I actually have no idea why, meaning once we reconnect with that beautiful safety piece of safety that we lost, we then now have that wonder and curiosity, which we lost a while ago. So it's fantastic to be able to go back there. And then I think for those who are new to this type of work of going back and reconnecting with their inner child, what does that look like on an expression level. And I've done a couple things. One of them was with journaling. There's a specific journal protocol that I did that was very, very impactful.
Yep.
And then recently with two friends that I made out here, it was actually more of like a cathartic release where they got me to yell. And I was yelling out after I got into a mental state with guided by these gentlemen, and I was yelling it out, and I was able to express these emotions that I had. And then from that, I went into boxing and having an outlet for anger and violence and these things that are natural was now me being able to reconnect with this calm, safe person again. And so for folks who may be new to this type of reconnection, what are the practices that go into play?
Yeah. At each stage of development in childhood, there's certain strengths that we're supposed to gain along the way. So, for example, and actually I'll answer the mother wound in this too. We'll circle back around to it. I know there's someone listening that's like, what's the mother wound?
I'm glad you remember because we keep going like this. It's wonderful.
But I'll answer it in this, right? So, so there's at each stage of development, there's certain strengths that we're supposed to gain in each stage, right? Yep. And when we don't get what we need in childhood, when we don't have the safe space or the role model or the right environment to support us in receiving those strengths in every stage of development, we don't actually progress past that stage of development. So it becomes an incomplete stage of development. So what you just expressed there around sound like there was a lot of anger, a lot of you tapping into yelling, your power, right? Anger is our protector emotion. It's our power. And this is where the nice guy comes from, because he's so disconnected from his fucking power, which is his anger, because he didn't have the safety as a little boy to be angry at his parents and for it to be okay. Because as we go from being solely dependent on our parents to meet our emotional needs, we transition into the toddler stage, which is where we go into more independence. And what happens in that stage, they call it the psychological birth. They call it the second birth. And in that stage, they've probably heard of like the terrible twos before. A toddler that's just like angry or just throws tantrums or whatever. That's for a purpose. Reason being is because they use that anger to resist their parents. Think of the energy of attachment. So to be solely dependent is like the surrendering, is this moving towards. To then be independent is to push away. So think of like the movement, the energetics of attaching, or being solely dependent and then independent. This is where we become wounded in our attachment styles, our attachment systems. And then we develop certain strategies along the way in order to get our dependency needs met, right? To gain closeness and connection, or to get our needs met of being independent. So let's just say, like the nice guy, typically, he didn't have the safe space for his anger. So he didn't gain that strength of development to be able to resist. And what's resisting? It's setting boundaries. So he won't be able to speak his truth. He'll struggle setting boundaries because he didn't claim that strength as a toddler, as a little boy, to be angry and for it to be okay. And it's important that we can be angry and we have and we're taught healthy shame. There's limits to it, of course, but I can be angry at my parents. I can not be okay, and it's okay. When we don't have that, we suppress our anger. When we don't have that, we don't speak our truth, because by speaking our truth, that could end up in conflict, right? And how we then reclaim that strength and that power is to reclaim your anger, is to reclaim the physical defensiveness of boxing, of fighting, of jiu-jitsu, MMA, where you're physically pushing and you're physically creating boundaries, right? So it's like you're reclaiming the strength that little boy didn't receive by consciously going out there and doing these things from the place of, I'm now claiming my anger. I'm now claiming my power back. So now you'll be able to set boundaries in relationship. Now you'll be able to actually speak your truth without the fear of there being conflict. Now you'll be able to, and there's a difference. You can feel when a man's in his power, he's not afraid of conflict. It's this sense of like, I can feel your heart and I won't fuck with you, right? And with that comes this respect that I won't walk over you because I know that you have your power, you have your boundaries, right? So we have certain stages of development and certain strengths. So that's the second stage of development, which is the toddler stage, which is revolved around creating independence, which is where we create, we tap into our anger. Now, beneath all of that, as I shared, we come from the physical womb into this physical world where we're then welcomed into this energetic womb. Now think of this energetic womb. We're solely dependent on not just our caregivers, but everyone in our environment, family and friends. Like we're solely dependent on their nervous systems. Like as a child, our brain hasn't fully developed yet. So we're dependent, we're speaking, we're communicating through nervous system to nervous system. Now, let's say we have parents that are emotionally disconnected from themselves because they didn't have their developmental needs met. So they're not connected to their nervous system. We don't have this mirror reflecting back to us safety, emotional connection, emotional regulation. So we become dysregulated. We disconnect from ourselves and we become and do whatever we need to do to get our survival needs met. So we disconnect from our experience. We become whoever we need to be to get our survival needs met. And that might look like crying, screaming, yelling, doing whatever you need to do to get attention. Look at me, like give me love and attention, right? We become wounded in that sense. What also happens is we don't have the safety or the space to have healthy emotional regulation mirrored back to us, but also to be in our own emotional experience. To build and this is not just the infancy stage, but this is your entire childhood, right? When you don't have that bedrock of foundation of love and support and emotional connection, where it's like, I know and I can feel that even if I make a mistake, love is there. I know that even if my parents aren't okay, they've got themselves. I know that I am the highest priority in my parents' world. When we don't have those three core emotional needs met, we become wounded in the energetic archetype of the motherly energy, right? Of that love, that nurturing, and that bedrock and foundation of love and support. So when that's not there, we don't have the safety in our environment, because we're survival beings, to be in our own emotional experience, so we don't develop a relationship or a connection to our own emotional experience. So what does all of this look like? This looks like a high-performing man in business that's trying to balance a business and a relationship, but he has the emotional capacity of like a shot glass compared to a fucking bucket, because he doesn't have the ability to process or regulate his emotional experience. He needs things outside of him to feel good, to regulate his nervous system and to feel good, right? Porn, sex, drugs, alcohol, partying, the hit he gets from like a new connection with a woman, the relationship that soothes his nervous system. This is where a man will seek for a relationship to mother him. So he gets into a relationship looking for someone to take the role of the caretaker. And what that might look like is, I want to focus on my business, and I want you to emotionally take care of me, but I don't have the emotional capacity to meet your needs of safety, right? So it's this complete emotional disconnection, and that's what the mother wound looks like for the modern day man, and how that may show up for him. So basically, it's complete disconnection from you being able to regulate and self-soothe your own emotions, and therefore needing things outside of you to soothe and to nourish yourself. It's at the core of it, it's nourishment. We become disconnected from nourishment. So the mother wound is, we could have done it legit, a whole podcast on it. Like I just skipped over so many pieces of information there that are like so fundamental. But yeah, that's a conversation for another day. I'm sure there's been a lot in here.
I think we could definitely do one on the whole mother wound. I think it was so incredible. The stages which you described were so fascinating. And then relating the beginning to what you were saying with myself in terms of the things that I've been reclaiming, which is anger and having an outlet, and then not having the ability to set boundaries, and then kind of just the sense that people pick up on once you do reclaim that. Like, since I went and had that cathartic release, the yelling, as guided by my friends Alan and Kian, and then going into boxing I feel completely different. I feel like a new man.
Yeah.
And then I've noticed around me, like I'm received in a completely different way as well. Like, people will on one bit is like, I'm being approached by more women, which is awesome. And just in the sense of, okay, cool. Like, this is the work that needs to get done in order to go towards the path of being more grounded, as other people will sense it in a welcoming thing of like, okay, this person is safe to be around in the sense of like, he is in control of his nervous system or his emotions, whatever. And the same thing with men. It's just a completely different thing. And then how it shows up with the mother wound in the modern day man is so fascinating because I know I was also that for some time when I was working in a more high stress environment, and then relationships that went wrong. Like, so many men fall into this where it's like, oh, but I'm giving you, all the money that you could ever ask for. I'm giving you the convertible. I'm giving you this life that's so amazing. And then you do come home and you're like, oh, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Like, can you just like rub my feet or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And it's a disconnect because it's the other way. It's, you should have the bucket, not the shot glass of emotional capacity.
Yeah. And in that as well is, this is the most beautiful gift of the masculine. And it's like this paradox of the masculine and feminine, because we live in a world of polarity, hot, cold, left, right, masculine and feminine, male, female, everything works in synergy and polarity, right? So the most beautiful gift that the masculine can provide the feminine in relationship is his emotional safety that he provides through being so deeply connected to himself, that by providing that, he will naturally create the environment and the space for her to want to nourish him.
Yeah.
And that's a natural byproduct. Like, her being in her expression, she will naturally want to nourish him. He doesn't need it from her, right? But because of the connection that he has to himself and the safety that he provides, because she doesn't, like, a woman who's truly connected to her feminine essence doesn't give a fuck about what you can provide for her physically, in the sense of money, financial, like whatever. If you're not connected to your heart, none of that means nothing. If you're not connected to your heart, she wants your heart. She wants to feel you as a man. But for the most part, most men are fucking decapitated from their chin down, because here is a painful place to be, because here is the little boy who's downstairs locked away in the dungeon that they've suppressed and repressed their entire fucking life. So to welcome that part of you, to build that connection from the head and the heart through cultivating a relationship with your breath, through doing this deep inner work, through really cultivating that strong connection to yourself, that nourishment that most men are needing from a woman, he'll naturally get that by the safety that he actually just provides for her. Yeah. So I love that you mentioned that, because it's something it's so incredible seeing it play out when men get it.
Yeah, it's further reasoning for why when you hear the men around you that they're in the pit, you smile and say, hell yeah.
Man, I haven't actually spoken about this for a long time. Yeah, this is something that I definitely haven't spoken about for a very long time, and it just clicked now, was that when I first started going to personal development events, I would sit in the room with, let's say there would be 80 people in the room. I would say there'd be maybe 10 guys, right? So 90% of the people in the room are women. And then I became heavily involved with a personal development company where I then started facilitating with them. Same thing every fucking time. 95% women at these personal development events. Every time we went through a process where it'd be like, raise your hand if you felt physically, emotionally unsafe with the masculine. Most women, actually all of them, would put their hand up. And I'd constantly see this. I'd see all of these women raising their hand, speaking how unsafe they've felt in relationships from the masculine and the sexual and emotional abuse that they've experienced most of their life from the unhealthy masculine role models that they've witnessed and experienced their entire fucking life. It made me so angry and annoyed that there weren't more men in that room. And it gives me chills right now because like one of my deepest devotions and commitment is to fill rooms with men to do this deep inner work, right? So we can be the supportive foundation and bedrock for the feminine. Because the feminine, when they feel safe enough, is like embodied feminine women feel safe enough to be held by the masculine, a rising tide lifts all ships. Yeah. And by women having that safety, it's like, it's a completely different world. And that's something that I'm so committed to. And that's something that I used to see a lot of. It's like women they're needing safe men. In a world that's becoming so disconnected, to be a safe man is a rare thing. And what I used to experience at those events and seeing that used to make me sick. It used to make me so angry. So that's a big, you probably feel through my passion. I guess something I'm deeply passionate about is men doing this work so they can be the safe space, not just for their partner, not just for a woman to be her fully expressed self. But I know through the connection of a beautiful relationship between the masculine and feminine, the children that they then raise. It's about the future generation. Because the wounded inner child only is developed within a faulty system. And the faulty system, the absolute root cause of a faulty system is a marriage breakdown, right? Or is a disruption in the marriage or a break in the marriage. For the most part, a disconnect between mum and dad being disconnected from themselves, from who they are, their core. So there's so much that comes from men doing the deep inner work to be the safe space for the feminine to rise. Because as I shared before, when a man or when the masculine creates safety for the feminine, she will naturally, in her own way, in her own expression, give back to him. And it's this perpetuating thing where it's like a rising tide lifts all ships. And the rise of the feminine takes for the masculine to be operating in their potential, to be able to actually hold the frame for a woman to be fully expressed in her truest form. Yeah, so that's a big burning desire, why I'm so passionate about this work.
I love it. And I kind of want to dive into something on that, which is when you're saying that the feminine needs safe men. And I think the word safe can be misunderstood in the West. Again, I'm going to relate it to where I'm from and where you're from. I'll make an assumption we have a similar thing that's going on. And I think what we've seen is there's a huge growth of more feminine men. Yeah. Which I would argue is not always, but the majority of the case, that's an unsafe man.
100%.
And I just say him being disconnected from himself, him thinking that all these emotions that are natural, that arise, are bad, or that they should be muted, or that masculinity is something that is negative or should be muted is bad, is actually what creates an unsafe man. Because any emotion that is not adequately expressed somaticizes and then comes out in other ways, which is, it's always fascinating because like anger or shame or guilt or whatever, It's not like they appear again as those exact same things. Like anger could show up as abuse, right? Or anger could show up as like eating cookies or some shit like that, but just those types of things. So
Watching porn.
Yeah. So, do you have any thoughts on
Vaping.
On this vaping? Yeah,
Yeah, smoking cigarettes. Yeah, all of it.
all that fucking bullshit. Yeah,
Yeah, and yeah, it also comes back to the lack of emotional connection to that he didn't receive in childhood to develop a strong connection to himself.
Yeah. And when I see this kind of, and I'm putting a general term and a blanket term over all of this, but when I see a man who's incapable of setting boundaries with the people around him, and then particularly like relationships and women in his life, of just saying, hey, actually, I'm not okay with you doing that. And I've been there. That's been me a couple of times. That's when it is a unsafe man to be around. And that the no is such a powerful and great word of you just knowing, okay, this is what I won't compromise on this.
Yeah.
This is a boundary that I will not allow anyone to cross. And it's just value-based, principle-based.
Yeah.
And that it's not happy wife, happy life. It's, this is what I believe in. And I hope that you have a similar value system so that we can build a life. And if you don't, that's okay. We're not the right partner for each other.
Man, most men, like what you shared before, most men have such a skewed belief of what it means to be a safe man, and they have such a skewed belief of what an unsafe man is. They think that to be an unsafe man in relationship is to be physically violent or aggressive or unsafe in that sense. The most unsafe man that I know of is the nice guy. Reason being is because to be able to say no, the nice guy at the core of it, he can't say no because he needs the love and validation from you to fulfill the void that he has within himself of loneliness. In order for him to say no is for you to fucking know yourself, to know what it is that you need. And for a man who can't say no is a man who will abandon himself in relationships, a man who will neglect what it is that he needs to feel connected to himself. But for the most part, the nice guy will do everything in his power to avoid abandonment. He will do everything to avoid this greatest source of love, this relationship, being compromised. And any tiny little thing that threatens that will activate his survival strategies that he developed as a little boy. Passive aggressiveness, stonewalling, defensiveness, short bursts of reactivity that just come out of nowhere. To be a safe man is to be trusted. And to be trusted is to be respected. And to be trusted is, I like to think of it, is imagine a tree that's so deeply rooted, right? The roots of the tree have met the depth of themselves, the hero's journey. It knows itself to its depth. It's in its own frame. It's been standing tall for tens and tens and tens of years, right? And it's just solid in its own frame. You can trust it. There's this sense of grounding and safety and security you feel around it because it's secure in its own frame, right? Most men don't realize how insecure they actually are. And the insecure man is the most unsafe man. It's one of the most toxic masculine traits. Is the man who's deeply insecure and disconnected from himself emotionally. Because as you shared, that anger, that suppressed emotion has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And he will store it away and he'll keep it locked away and it'll come out as passive aggressiveness, reactivity, defensiveness, closing down, shutting down, reactivity, just becoming so overwhelmed in relationship as well, like flooded with emotion that leads him to just wanting to get the fuck out and seek freedom. And typically, because the thing he fears most is abandonment, he won't actually leave the relationship. He will seek freedom through distractions like work, porn, things that make him feel good, eating shit food, right? Gives him that dopamine hit. So the most unsafe man would be the subtle ways that the nice guy. Of course, the physical unsafety is a thing, right? But I don't know a man where at the core of him is this deep longing and sense of wanting to provide and give the people that he loves most everything. We're providers in our nature as men. And those guys, the most unsafe guys, try and provide physically. It's like, if I can provide physical safety, right? Or buy you all these things or make all this money or do this thing, the most important thing that you can protect a woman from or your partner from or your family from is your shadows, your unresolved wounds. So to be so deeply connected to yourself is the safe man is the byproduct of that. Yeah. So to be insecure, most men don't realize how insecure that they actually are. And if you look at the word insecurity, it means to lack safety. To lack safety in your nervous system, typically based on the safety that you didn't receive as a little boy. So those insecurities that come up in relationship, that trigger your fear of abandonment, that trigger your whatever. Mm-hmm. To be insecure is to lack safety in your nervous system in that moment, based on the safety that you didn't receive as a boy, and then that's how that's how it shows up. So, I really believe, and I would love for men to really receive that around the unsafe man, because what you shared before around people just treated you differently, started treating you differently after you reclaimed your anger. It's because they now respect you. Where before you would have actually felt unsafe to a woman because her body, her intuition can feel that you have anger in your body, and where's that anger going? Right? She can feel that you don't have the ability to say no and set boundaries. And she can feel that you're not going to respect yourself in a relationship and you're going to lose yourself. Yeah. So for you to reclaim that anger that's the safest thing that you could do. That's the safest thing a man can do, is tap into his anger in a healthy way. Like build a healthy connection to his aggression. Because that's how we reclaim our power as men. Yeah.
100%. No, it's so fascinating. It's so fascinating. And I think it touches on another incredible thing, which is women are so intuitive with like, and if you've ever, like, I've experienced it so many times where I think that the emotions that I'm subtle with, but then the partner who I was with would just call me and just be like, "Hey, where'd you just go?"
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "How the fuck did you?" And like, I'm just, like, nothing is changing. We're driving in the car and I'm forward, or like looking forward. And then she just, in the middle of the conversation, she just said, "Hey, you just went somewhere.
Yeah.
Where did you go?" And I think it's so incredible to, like, the masculine and feminine both have such amazing, amazing gifts. The intuition that women have and the feminine has is so amazing, because it's established so much knowledge on the world based off of just what's going on and being intuitive. Just a mother knows, like, across the world, like, something happened to my son, I need to give him a call. And then just how that balances with the strength and the knowing and the intuition of a man.
When men get that and understand that, they look at relationships completely differently. Like, the power of the intuition of a woman. A woman's intuition, her felt sense, is so sensitive and receptive that she can see a truth, or she can see beyond maybe what a man can't see yet. And when a man is able to actually listen more to the feminine, typically those subtle invitations into his potential, that's where they lie. So as you probably saw, I made a post the other day around men don't realize they have unhealed trauma until the woman they love more than anything leaves after she gives him 1,000 invitations into his potential for him to face his potential. Those little subtle invitations are through the gifts of her intuition that she can feel and potentially even see something beyond what he can't even see yet. Because before that partner left me in that previous relationship, man, there was so many times she was like, hey, don't you think like you should go and do this? That was her intuition saying, hey, it's probably important you go and do this because I can foresee into the future that if you don't solve this, that this is going to affect our relationship and we're probably going to end up breaking up.
Intuitively.
I didn't listen to that.
No.
Yeah, the feminine intuition is so fucking powerful. And like,
so powerful.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's really incredible.
And our own, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But you think of the energy of the feminine, like an embodied feminine woman, the energy of the feminine is the receptive energy. Mm-hmm. So the energy in its purest form is going to be more receptive than the masculine. So she already is more tuned into the spiritual world, the world that is beyond what we can see, because that's her natural essence, her form. She's more in the feminine. Just like when a man really creates the stillness and the space to tune into his feminine, right? He goes on a quest, on a vision quest where he switches everything off. Maybe he goes on a plant medicine journey. He's receiving from the feminine. He's tuning into the feminine, and he has a stronger, more felt sense to his intuition. And he has greater visions and whatnot because he's more in his feminine energy. Women are more naturally in tune and in touch with that. So that, oh man, this is why like I fucking love women, because like they have been my greatest teachers through their invitations into me becoming whoever it is I need to be in order to be the safe man to actually hold the frame for that person. And I'm not just speaking like intimate relationships. I have friends, dear friends who are women, where I've been able to create that beautiful dynamic with them where they've experienced this sense of safety, love and connection that's purely platonic. There's purely that separation, but that safety can still be created between the masculine and feminine. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is the most beautiful thing that a man can provide. But I think for the most part here, the biggest takeaway based on what we just shared there is a man listening more. Yeah.
And truly listening and being present, not because you can look and listen, but a sense of presence is very, very different and it can be felt. And coming back to that presence and actually being focused and being there with that person can be sensed. Because if you're not there, if you're not present, the woman that you're with will call you on your bullshit and say, "Where did you just go?"
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I have tons of questions, but I think we've covered all of them. But just a final one here, and putting it with you is there any question that you wish people would ask you more, or is there anything that you wish someone would have asked you a question in the past week or today?
Is there a question that I wish someone would ask me more? I get asked a lot of questions on a daily basis. I work with a lot of people. It would be, how are you really?
How are you really?
Yeah. How's your heart? How are you? What I mean by that is, like I said, that in a world that's becoming so disconnected, even in the people that you pass by, even in the like living here in Bali, like there's so much surface level here. So there's people that I've connected with here that are and I can feel as soon as you and I connected, there was a sense of like, I want to get to know you as a man, as a brother. Yeah. So it's like your words don't need to say it, but it's this felt sense of like, I want to feel your heart. I don't want to talk about surface level shit. I don't want to talk about just making money in business. I want to talk about the deep impact that you're actually creating by making that money. So it's beyond just like, how are you really? It's that deeper heart to heart connection and that kind of unspoken question through that deeper depth of connection. If that makes sense.
How are you wrestling with life?
Yeah.
What's the biggest challenge you're facing right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you really?
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
And here's the thing, like you will walk down the street and you'll say, or you go to the shops and everyone's just, hey, how you doing? Yeah, good. Hey, how's things? Yeah, good. Yeah, things are good. So surface level. It's like, hey, how are you really? And you ask them 3 times. Oh, well, actually, this happened. I'm actually feeling like this. Oh, okay. Awesome. Beautiful.
Awesome.
I'm here.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, I'm here for you. Love you.
It's epic, man.
Yeah.
It is, man. No, it's so important to be going deeper and deeper with folks. I know that it can't always be conducive if you're in Bali direct. You may not always want to jump into a super deep convo
Yeah,
there,
for sure. There's the level of safety there in relating.
1,000%, yeah. But then the feeling though, because I felt the same thing because we first said hi in Nirvana, I was like, that motherfucker got it.
Yeah, he got the high. Yeah. It's like, have you seen the quotes, the memes or whatever, where men just fucking nod at each other and they're like, they just had a 10-year conversation.
Yeah, 1,000%, dude. And like, me and my friend call it the brother nod, and like, it happens anywhere. It's universal, man.
Like, bro, I know you. From that nod, you don't have to say anything.
Driving scooters past each other, just fucking nod. So
yeah, I see you, brother. Yeah. One example of this though is on the way here.
Mm-hmm.
I got business partners, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my business partners are some of my closest and dearest brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Not blood brothers, but chosen brothers.
Yeah.
And on the way here, I was just speaking so much business with my brothers, with my business partners. And I just stopped for a moment. I was like, I sent. There was all these messages back and forth. What about this? Payments, this. What are we doing with this money? Where's this going? Retreats, planning, organizing, deciding, all this stuff. And then I was like, hold up. On the way here, when we pulled up at the studio here, I sent my brother a voice message. I was like, how's your heart, bro? How are you? And that's something that we always do back and forth with each other. It's like, hey, beyond the business, beyond the stuff, how are you?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not sure if you heard or you saw, but one of the biggest leaders in the personal development space in Australia that's been in this work for so fucking long took his life. Someone who knows better than anyone else, right? Yet maybe he didn't have just that one depth of connection with his brothers. The success means fuck all. Beyond the business, beyond all of it, how are you really? How are you? Yeah.
Strip it away.
So yeah.
I had no idea that happened. That's terrible news. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Was that a recent thing that happened? Or?
Yeah, it was a recent thing that happened in Australia. Those who know will know the name. But yeah, it was a massive wake up call for a lot of people. It's like, wow, like you can know and understand and even teach. Like he had impact of over like 600,000 people. That was his impact. People teaching, personal growth, personal development, business, trauma, somatics, like all of this. And yet he still took his own life. And with that was really the wake up call of like, beyond all of this stuff, it doesn't fucking matter. How are you really? How's your heart? How's the little boy within, like, is that little boy within you still striving and seeking for something outside of him to validate him, to feel that he's enough? Man, I've worked with men who've sold their company, had $600 million hit their bank account, and they lose themselves. Then they come to me. I've lost myself. My relationship's gone down the drain. I have all the money in the world. I don't know who I am. I considered taking my life not long ago because of it. None of it matters unless you've got the right people around you, unless your heart's actually happy, none of it matters.
Sounds like his passing really affected you.
Yeah, because I've been that before. Yeah, I've neglected connection. I've neglected brotherhood. I've neglected deep connections with men, with brothers. And I've been betrayed by men, by brothers, because I wasn't intentional about those connections. And I've been that person who's lost himself along the journey and had it all, and legit every day considered what it would be like to just end it all. Like I've been there, and I've come out of that. And I know that through connection, through brotherhood, through this deep inner work, through healing that little boy who is screaming for a man's love and attention, I truly believe this is how we come back to our true nature, the love that we are, the true essence of who we are, and where we get to experience the depth and the love and experience of life and be able to fully receive it and not lose ourselves along the way. So yeah, I believe especially someone like that who definitely had an impact on my journey, I will allow that to be a reminder for me personally, and maybe someone who's listening to this, that none of it fucking matters if you don't have the right people around you who truly see you, and you don't have the depth of love and connection, and you go out of your way to build connection, to build brotherhood, and to heal the wounded little boy who then creates this life that most men then want to escape from. Yeah, so that's why I choose for that to mean enough for me. Like I chose for that experience to go, you know what? I'm going to see that and let that be a lesson for me. So all the people that I love don't have to experience the grief of something like that happening. Yeah. Yeah.
It's an excellent way to take a lesson from something like that. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on that we didn't discuss today?
I feel like there's a lot there. Yeah. And I feel like anything else, it's there's nothing that like my heart or anything desires. I feel like that we've done a good job in providing some value here. So I'm good to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, well, thank you so much. This was incredible, and this wasn't the fastest podcast that you've done, but it was quick for me. I think it was a week from knowing you to then turning around and doing a shoot. We were talking before this. You did one within 45 minutes of meeting someone, but it was so cool to meet you, and the work you're doing is truly impactful, and I can see it with the people who you surround yourself with, the intention and the words spoken. And it was so incredible for me to be sitting here and to be listening to those words, because I was able to reflect on my own path and the things that I've gone through, people who I know, and thinking of, these are some incredible lessons I would actually like to take to other people as well. So the fact that we were able to record this is wonderful. So thank you, man.
Thank you for having me, bro.
Yeah.